one and only Bill Pito. How are you, Bill?
Good. Can't believe the season's over, man. It went so fast. You start the season, you say, "Oh, it's gonna take forever," and it always goes like that.
It always does. Absolutely right. Looking ahead, Bill, to the off-season, a lot of question marks for this team. But towards the end of the season, a lot of the young players have shown, glimpses of, their future in New York and their potential. What impressed you towards the end of the season with the New York Knicks finish?
Well, it's very interesting because if you're an organization, you have to ask yourself, do you have enough of a sample size to adequately judge, for example, Obi Toppin? Randall's obviously out with the bad quad. The games at the end of the year really didn't count for much, but Obi finished 20, 20, 19, 35, and 42. And it's hard to discount or dismiss that. To me, what was most impressive, we all know about his athleticism, but how about the way he shot the three ball? It's clear when he gets more minutes, he's more comfortable, he gets into a rhythm, and it turns out that maybe after all, he's a lot better of a shooter than he's shown when he doesn't play as much. We had a number there. He went back-to-back games with 6 threes made there at the end for a total of 12 in 2 games. He didn't make his 12th three of the season until January. Just goes to show you how much his play improved. So that's a big decision. What do you do with Obi next year? And also, I think Immanuel Quickley was fantastic. He had 2 triple-doubles in his last 4 games. His last game against the Raptors was fantastic with a career-high 34 points and 12 assists. Is he your point guard of the future? What are you going to do if Derrick Rose comes back healthy? There are a lot of very big decisions to be made here, made all the more complicated by how these young guys played down the stretch. And don't forget about Jericho Sims. In his last 3 games, he had 36 rebounds for an average of 12 a game, which is pretty good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You could see the chemistry of those guys playing together a lot off the bench, Bill. And, you made some great points. Do you think there's a potential starting role for these players, coming up?
I don't know. It's very difficult to assess because when you look at the last handful of games, only the Brooklyn game mattered for the other team. You beat the Wizards, the Raptors, the Magic. I just think it's a very tough spot in terms of evaluation. Do you go as an organization off those games and say, okay, Quickley can be a starter in this league, Obi can be a starter in this league? I don't know. A very, very interesting dynamics for sure.
Yep. Obviously, they'll have summer league to be able to, see these players carry their form, into the summer. The great thing is these young players have a great work ethic as well. So they're going to put in the work, and the future's in their hands, and the future's bright. We obviously have the draft coming up as well, the off season. Some veterans on this roster with an uncertain future. In terms of the veterans fit, what are some veterans that you could see really sticking with this team, and helping the team out for the future?
Well, so you have Noel, who missed most of this year. He's under contract. 1 more year and then a team option. Derrick Rose, 1 more year and then a team option. Burks, 1 more year and then a team option. So Burks, Rose, and Noel are under contract. We'll see what happens with those guys. I think Rose not being there this year was a big issue. We've talked about that last year when Rose played. The Knicks went 24-11. He hasn't been right since November. He then tried to gut it out for a month, and then they shut him down in December. If Rose is healthy and down in the lineup at the stretch, do they maybe not blow the leads that they blew this year? I don't know. That's an interesting question. Biggest question of all, however, in terms of guys who have been with the team is Mitchell Robinson. He's an unrestricted free agent. So I don't know. Do you think that maybe Sims and Noel as a 1-2 punch can fill in for... The thing about Mitch is it would be a shame to lose him for nothing. So if they decide they don't want to re-sign him, maybe they can do a sign and trade.
Yeah, absolutely. And the team, Bill, swung a trade for Cam Reddish as well. What did you like what you saw with Cam Reddish in the glimpses that we saw him in the rotation?
So Cam Reddish in the last handful of games seemed like he was picking it up a little bit more. He looks like he's a dynamic offensive player. We to be honest with you, we're not really bringing him up that much, and maybe we should. Maybe with longer minutes, he can make more of a contribution. I'm not sure where he fits, though, to be honest with you, because Fournier, they made a decision to sign Fournier to be a three-ball shooter, and you cannot debate that he did that. He finished with 241 threes. The previous franchise record was 217. So Fournier did what he was signed to do. They committed a lot of money to him. And then with Grimes, and depending on how these other guys fit, I don't know. I don't really know how Reddish fits, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, his game, offers a lot, in terms of getting to the cup. The athleticism is there. Deuce McBride, another young player with defensive prowess as well. What did you like what you saw from Deuce earlier this season, later this season?
What's interesting to me is that when Deuce McBride played in the G League, he hit a lot of threes. When he played in the NBA, he didn't hit as many threes. A three shot that's open is open, whether it's in the G League or the NBA. I don't know if he didn't feel as comfortable, but when he played in Westchester at the G League level, he lit it up. I don't think it's something that you can expect him to score that well as an NBA player, but it's definitely something that I think would help him is if he can consistently score more than he did.
Yep, absolutely. And we heard from the president, Leon Rose, on MSG Networks, interviewed by the one and only Mike Breen as well. Did anything stand out to you from that interview?
Well, the one point I think that we tend to forget about is that the Knicks have 9 players 24 or under, and Randall's only 27. I think we forget about how young they are. RJ Barrett, who we haven't even touched on, had the breakthrough year, averaged 20 points per game exactly. That was his goal. He would have, if he had stayed in college, been a senior this year at Duke. We watch these guys and we forget how young they are. So I think that's the biggest plus for the Knicks going forward is the youth of their roster and all the draft picks that they have, which Leon Rose went into detail about. So they have a lot of flexibility. And I think that's the most attractive thing about what we might see is they can do a lot of different things.
Absolutely, yep. With roster spots and the draft coming up as well. But Bill, the East got incredibly tough this season. It took me by surprise just how tough it was. What were your impressions of the East overall this year?
Well, it was brutal. Heck, if the Knicks were in the West, I think they would have made the top 10. They basically have the same record ballpark as the Pelicans and the Spurs did. The East was brutal. Chicago was better. Miami, look, you go top to bottom. Heck, Atlanta had that great playoff run, and they had to do the play-in. That just goes to show you, and they have a pretty deep roster. Yeah, that didn't help. The Eastern Conference is loaded up. The Pacers could be better next year. The Hornets are on the rise. We know about the Hawks. Yeah, there are a lot of good teams. The Wizards actually, to me, seem like they have potential as well. Yeah, that was a factor too. Also, when you look at the season, there was that 3-17 run, 17 losses in 20 games before the All-Star break. If you win a handful of those games that you could have won after you blew those leads, it changes the whole dynamic. You had the Phoenix heartbreaking loss. You had the loss at Portland when you were up 23 with 17 minutes to go. The game against the Nets at Brooklyn when the lead was 28 and they couldn't hold that. So I just think that if you instead of 3-17, if you go 7-13, or you go 9-11. Before that, the Knicks were 22-21. That's the stretch. 3-17 stretch in the third quarter of the season that doomed the year. So, yeah, the East is tougher, but hopefully the Knicks can make the necessary adjustments to come back strong.
Yeah, absolutely. As we roll into the off-season, Bill, what does the off-season look like for yourself?
Well, I'm going to be involved with the Rangers. We got the Rangers in the playoffs, and they have a potential here to make a nice playoff run. Fingers crossed that they do that. But other than that, I'm gonna chill out. I love it during the season, but it's very intense, and I'm looking forward to relaxing a little bit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well-earned break, well-earned deserved break. Bill, fantastic season with the team, MSG Networks. We obviously saw a Walt Clyde Frazier inducted, receiving the Kurt Gowdy Award. A big year for the team. Rebecca welcoming a new child as well. So On behalf of all Nick fans, we salute and we thank you for your coverage this season.
Well, it's a great thrill. I'm a native New Yorker. When I was a little boy in Manhattan, the Knicks were championship teams. My mom is not here, but she was a huge fan of Clyde Frazier. What people, I hope, understand is that those Knicks teams in the early 70s were transcendent. And what I mean by that is a non-basketball fan loved Clyde Frazier. So my mom loved Clyde Frazier because she used to always say that Clyde Frazier never seemed like he broke a sweat. He was cool. And to work with Clyde Frazier, who's now the first guy ever in the Basketball Hall of Fame as a player and a broadcaster. And to work with Mike Breen, who's in the Hall of Fame. It's just amazing. And we have Wally and Alan and Rebecca, and Monica McNutt was a great ad. Boy, I'm lucky. It's a great way to make a living, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a joy to watch. And Bill, as always, I thank you for your time. Have a lovely rest, and go Rangers, go Knicks. And hopefully we'll see you back for a big season ahead.